right. I guess I'll do the commercial now. In a minute here. I don't know here. A rabbit hole commercial, huh? All right, turn that one off. Intro. Rabbit commercial. Where's the intro? I guess that was the intro, right? No, that wasn't. Oh, here we go. We'll see. All right. There we go. I don't know what's going on.
I can hear it. So.
Hi, I'm Joe Slick of the Joe Slick Live Show. Rabbit Hole's a deeper dive into the studies of Earth science. Today we're taking a journey into the depths of what's considered truth and challenging it with open thought. Come join us.
All right, so there's the intro. There's a commercial and an intro. Been a little bit busy, I guess. How are y'all doing?
I'm good.
Have Clem here, and I have Kanaki.
How we doing?
Yeah. For those who missed it, last night was a really wonderful shit show over there at Clem's channel, and that happened on Friday nights at 10 his time. Figure it out. I think he's Central Time. Or is it 9?
Yeah, Central Time. 10
Yeah.
o'clock. 10 o'clock.
We go over there and we screw around a lot. So, at least a few of us do. We have a good time listening to, him ask questions to farmers and blue collar workers, and asking them about their own shit shows and what they're doing over there to solve the problems. Today, I guess that the current president he did something to make it harder for truckers. What did he do? I couldn't believe what I heard. I said, nah, that can't be right. It's just, and then he made Easter now Queer Day.
Yeah,
So
National Transgender Day or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, this fucker, he needs to go. Yeah, we're an R-rated channel now. There you go. Sorry, Patrick, but you should be in bed. It's late. Depends where you live. I don't understand the things that they get this guy to do. He's truly a lizard man.
Yeah. So Easter Sunday's now National Transgender Day. So there you go. It's crazy.
For me, Easter or Resurrection Day is, I don't like Easter because I don't worship the God of Star, but it's like a reset day. It's a day that you say, okay, I want to make a new commitment to, trying to be a better person, and evaluate what the Lord did for us and the like. But I mean, who does that? Other than somebody who's purely evil. So
it's just more crazy stuff. What else is new? Something new every day.
Yeah. What the heck? I'm looking it up here. Trying to find what the hell Biden did this morning for truckers. He limited truckers even more. Shadow ban. All right, there's a new documentary out. We'll be watching that later. The movie obliterates climate scam, shadow banned by YouTube. Well, and Poland's now saying that Europe is in a pre-war era. Wow. Withdraws from the Treaty to Conventional Armed Forces in Europe.
What day did that all go down?
shit today.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on.
Globalist and Euro fanatic Donald Tusk has proudly taken Poland down the warpath. On his first interview, European media, since becoming Polish prime minister for the second time, Tusk urged leaders around the continent to bolster their defenses, which is a good thing. But much more than that, he's banging the war drums as hard as he can, like a fool, appealing for every urgent military aid for Ukraine. Mr. Tusk warned the next 2 years the war would decide everything. We are living in the most critical moment since the end of the Second World War. Wow.
That's crazy.
Poland's now spending 4% of its GDP on defense, doubling the NATO's target of 2%. Poland suspends the Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe. The document was signed by President Duda Day. The denunciation means that Warsaw will no longer fulfill the treaty's provisions regarding the number of armed forces and their locations. Basically, I think he's saying that you ain't sending our men where you want to fight. You know, I think that's what he's saying. And Poland's preparing for future conflict with Russia. It is retooling its army now, and within a few years, will be one of the strongest in Europe.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Well, and there was that last week, the cruise missile that went flying into Polish airspace too. So,
well, that's like
Russia.
The second one, right?
Yeah. So
that's just flat out stinking crazy.
And I think NATO's building a new base in Hungary too. I read that the other day. So it's all getting wild over there, I guess.
Yeah, this is the thing. Karine Jean-Pierre post statement promoting Transgender Day of visibility after a barrage of criticism over Biden's Easter Sunday blasphemous proclamation. On Transgender Day visibility, Biden-Harris administration honors the extraordinary courage and contribution of transgender Americans and reaffirms the nation's commitment to forming a more perfect union where people are all treated equal. Go flag yourself. Oh my God. I thought it was fake. I couldn't believe that was.
Nothing surprises me out of the Biden camp anymore.
Wow. I mean, totally over the top. Burn this son of a bitch. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you happen to see Professor Nick's Friday show, Clem?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I was working too. What about you, Canuck?
Which one was
The one where the guy was
I watched it.
Yeah,
about Cascadia.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about strike slip faults and
yeah, he was talking about the faults offshore, the splay faults.
The splay faults. Yeah,
that they haven't paid too much attention to. They mapped them back in the 60s, but he and his group or whatever that he's been working with, they were trying to see where they start offshore and where they come onshore. But
megathrust and splay faults, investigating sources of the next Cascadia earthquake.
Yeah, but to me, all the splay faults they're just the ones that come in and connect to the other ones that go east to west. But he's not really saying that they're identifying and saying they're only 30 kilometers long or whatever. But I don't think that. I think they connect to the ones that are on land that go east-west anyway, like the Tacoma Fault and Seattle Fault and all that stuff.
Right.
But
Um,
they're not making that connection because they're just once again they're just trying to find the specific fault. But
right.
if you read all the other stuff, they'll say, well, this fault's connected to this fault, and when you go down farther underneath, you'll find that that's what it's doing, because it's all cracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all the fault
That's
is.
what a fault is basically a crack, right? In the
In the
well,
crust.
in
And
the
like,
crust. If the crust
and,
is not solid and it's all kind of just pressed together dirt and rocks, where we're seeing faults, do you see them more as that's where the greatest tension is and that's why there's a fault right there, versus just haphazardly having a fault just anywhere random, like earthquakes happen random?
well, it's like the faults are the evidence of where the liniment is or the magnetic field line. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And like I just watched another show tonight there that was the Val Troll guy there, the volcanologist
Yeah.
that's been to Iceland, and he was talking about. I just watched this like an hour ago, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like a half an hour thing, and he was said from all their data that they have so far, he said that all the lava that's come up there in Iceland so far since 2021, he said it's all coming from the same spot in the crust. So he said however it's coming. This is through December. They have all the data for the
Right.
lava flows from 2021 through December. They don't have the last two because they
So
haven't.
he's saying that they're all coming from the same location and this same kind of well of magma, what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and he says right now they don't know how far it is down there. They said based on the data, it could be between 6 kilometers deep and 20 kilometers deep.
Well, that's
But
good.
and they have like 4 theories on how it's working. And the one they're leaning to right now is that down there in the crust, like, I don't know, pick a spot, 20 kilometers. He
Mhm.
says there's like a gigantic magma chamber or
A vein or
what?
is it a
Yeah,
chamber or
but
more of a vein?
well, I don't know. He says it's like a place where it's accumulating. And
Okay,
it's
so it's
been
a
there for a while, but then it
Mhm.
comes up through various, like the magma chamber under Svartsengi is just one place it comes up, right?
Right, right.
But he said it came up in Fagersfall there because it's the exact same type of lava or magma because they do the geochemistry on it.
Right.
And so like he went through in the video he had there today explaining each one, like
Mhm.
each eruption so far that they have the data on. And then he said, well, this came up here and it did this and it went over this and was on top of this one, lava flow and all that. And he said, we took samples of this one, and we have all the data for this, and it's all basically the same. So it's all coming from the same place, even though it's in different spots on the Reykjanes Peninsula there. And he says the theory they're leaning to now is why it lasts for like 100 years, 200 years. He said whatever that spot is in the crust down there, it all accumulates, and then it shoots up through like different ways to the surface. And he said this is why it could go on and on and on for such an amount of time, because he said something happens where that all accumulates down there, however far
Right.
it is down, and it stays there, and then it finds different cracks or different ways to the surface, and then it comes out at one for a while, and then it'll switch to the next one, and so
Yeah. So it can they're all connected. The other volcanologist that this guy Val he talked to, that's the one guy I tell you that I like. I can't even say his name. But I learned so much more in watching a 30-minute video with somebody who knew what the hell they were talking about.
yeah.
And about this stuff. And that volcanologist believes that all of this is in a spot underneath Reykjavik, and it goes from there sideways up into these other places. Did Val confirm that? I mean, he's just a YouTuber, but did he confirm?
Well, that's what he was saying based upon the data in the
The data.
papers
Okay.
and the geochemistry of the lava flows so far.
All right.
Well,
So-
my question would be, um, is where it's coming up in Iceland at, is that kind of like a future hotspot in the making right now? Kind of like Hawaii or Yellowstone, just somewhere where it's gonna be the weakest point and it always comes up right there.
Yeah,
Because you got that whole trip, that whole line where that plate boundary is the whole way down, and that's the only big spot that comes up out of the water.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is made by the plume coming up, right? But this is like an offshoot of that plume because it is quiet for a while and then it builds up in the crust at whatever this. He didn't really call it a magma chamber because it's bigger than that. A magma chamber is like smaller, like under Svartsengi, where this thing is like super
Super
gigantic.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's way
Yeah,
down in the crust.
Yeah. Thor Thordarson is the one guy, and he said they don't know how big that thing is down there, but
Yeah.
I think that's the where the the vein, so to speak, that I call it, that comes out of the hotspot itself. It's underneath Reykjavik, which is pretty damn scary because the weakness in the plate, that's why it's coming up where it's coming up. It's only because of the weakness of the plate, because it's being pulled apart. That's how I understood it. Is that how you understood it too, Kanat?
Yeah, but it basically can come up like any place where there was a previous lava flow, right? Because it did before.
Yeah, he mentioned that the older lava flows, when they cooled, they hardened. So what happens is the lava doesn't come up right at that same spot. It comes over next to it or away from it, but in the same weakness area. He said that. But because of the heat, there's a certain level of heat. Now, if it's the stuff that's coming from way down below, which is way hotter, gets into this whole area, it can go anywhere it wants because it can burn itself through.
Yeah, which is why it travels so fast when it first comes out, right? Because it's hotter.
And it's so amazing that I did. So one thing I didn't realize, that there were different heat levels of different kinds of lava. So I was like, hey, wait a minute, I thought it was all the same.
Well, would the running stuff be more of a lava that's hotter than like the cooler, thicker?
Yeah, that'd be interesting to ask them a question, because there's two kinds of lava basically. There's the runny stuff, and then there's the more thicker stuff. It's metropolitan lava. Okay. Vast Thinker says, I mean, it's really, really, really interesting. It's simply Sue. He did not even have a Christian base, supporter base, far as I know. Yeah. But I mean, thinking about it, that there's one kind of magma that's created like in a subduction zone, right? When the plate subducts, the heat gets in there and water gets in there, and the water turns to steam, melts the rock, creates lava, and that's what gets put up. But there's another whole different type of thing with what's going on here in Iceland and in Hawaii, where they're over hot spots, where that stuff comes from way down below and is much hotter. So I think that's kind of what you were saying, Clem, but it's just far out. I'm looking for the magnetism in the rock, the lava, in order to determine magnetosphere. Yes, sir. Yes, Fast Thinker. I think that's really critical. Because they do dating and all that stuff, but trying when it cools to see the orientation, of the magnetosphere, because that's a really telling sign of if that whole theory, and which they base time and the stamp of time of how old the Earth is based on what Vast Thinker just said. That's an interesting question. And if the orientation comes up and that the magnetosphere is set in one way, but they're all saying it's set another way, then there's a problem here. Don't you think that would be a oh, wait a minute, we got all our numbers wrong. The world's not that old. The world is much older.
Yeah, well, it's all based upon whatever element they're basing the decay on, whatever the formula is that they have it. So it's different depending on which thing they're basing it on.
Yeah, which chemical or which element they're bringing up, and then the isotopes or whatever they look into, and to try to find the orientation of a certain rock in the magnetosphere orientation. The studies I've seen and read show that there were 4 major shifts, 15 in total. That's pretty interesting, Vast Thinker. The sun does a shift every 11 to 17 years, from what I understand. But I don't know what it looks like because I just never known it. But the Earth doing it, I mean, some people say it's the end of the world as we know it, and some say, well, it's just normal. Just what's south is south, what's north is north. I think we'll have incredible storms, bigger storms, but maybe that's what's really going on, not this climate change hoax. That what's going on is that the magnetosphere and the polarity of the Earth are fighting with each other, and it's going to flip. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. Do you have a thought on that, Clem?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of, I mean, we can base the facts on the rocks, once we figure out the date to the orientation. But for the future, I mean, it's a by guess and by golly, the way I see it.
Yeah, Vast Thinker says he decades ago, where the expanding Earth theory, where the Earth is actually getting bigger and bigger and bigger. He jumped on that, and the comprehensive U.S. submarine study survey of the oceans supporting his supposition. I don't know how that works, and the time element involved with the expanding Earth theory. It'd be interesting to, do a complete overview. Hey, this is what this theory is. Maybe that's something that we need to do on these rabbit holes too. Dedicate, a certain measure of time to say, hey, look, this is what the expanding Earth theory is, and then present the different arguments for and against it. That would be interesting, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I'm looking to make the content actually a little bit more straight and narrow here on JSL, but the other channel will have the other stuff.
That'll be wide open, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be wide open. Hey, whatever, man. Let's run with it. We run with it here pretty good too, but prefacing it with, hey, this is our opinion. This is our thought process and why, rather than, everything started in Rapa Nui as the ever expanding Earth. And I can't get my head around it. I don't. What about y'all, Canuck? What is your thoughts on that? On the expanding Earth theory?
Well, I don't know. Like, if it's a recycle system, it's not really expanding. It's just doing what it does, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a theory in itself, right? The recycle theory.
Yeah. With the subduction and then the spreading ridges. So I don't know. Is it expanding or not?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, if it was expanding, wouldn't all the plates be growing all the time?
Well, the conveyor belt theory, let me see if this. Okay, that doesn't go. So I have to share window capture and properties. Dun, dun,
Well,
dun.
the plates technically are moving all the time because that's why you have earthquakes. So
Right, but if you were going on the expanding Earth theory, there should be no subduction of plates in my mind because every plate should be growing all the way around all the time. That's the only way you'd make the Earth bigger. It to me, it's more like you said, the recycle theory. You know,
because all the plates we have is all made from like what it's doing in Iceland or Hawaii or whatever. Right? At some point, all the land was made. It was some thing that erupted either underwater or on top of the land. It doesn't make any difference, right? It's just making more land. So I don't know if the planet is expanding or not. I don't know really how you could really tell.
Well, I'm drawing something here. If a plate is moving, and we have one side where the cool down phase, right, goes down under, and then the heat up phase comes up, right, and the conveyor belt of the plates moving along the top of that. That's the virtually the plate theory. And I'm not saying anything against it, so don't think I am. What happens is parts of the plate get pushed down as well, and in some instances, they turn into hard candy at the very bottom, and yet somehow whatever's recycled. I think there's two. I don't know if I spell RECYCLE. Right. Yeah.
well, I like the Atlantic Ridge. To me, that would be the beginning. Yeah, the beginning part of that plate.
Right. And you have what goes to North America, and you got what goes to Africa, right? Meaning it's spreading it's creating land, right? It's like, it's not that it's coming up out of, but it's the magma comes up and cools, and it spreads, So it's not
also,
like a big turd coming up out of the depths of the earth and then slapping down on the plate. Whereas the intake on the other end of the Pacific, let's say the Pacific, right, or even at the Juan de Fuca, where it's diving down, or it's actually riding up and over. In some places it rises up and over, in some places it dives down. So that's weird. If it's rising up over here in the Atlantic Ocean and pushing North America, virtually left, riding over the Juan de Fuca, and the Juan de Fuca is diving down because that's part of or that can be rising out of. I'm more inclined to think the Pacific Ocean's coming out from under North America, to tell you the truth. But hey, that's just me.
Well, in my mind, roughly what dives underneath North America and becomes recycled, roughly about that same amount of material would be coming from the Atlantic Ridge.
There's nothing that's. So you're saying like the Juan de Fuca, how that's believed today. Juan de Fuca, this is a JDF over here. I know I have it on Twitch, so you can see my writings. Juan de Fuca is diving down underneath the North American plate, and what Clem is saying is it's diving down to the same number of let's call it parts,
metric tons or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Metric tons, right? MTs. As it is coming up, and because it has to have a balance. And see, his theory is that everything has to have a balance. And yeah, there you go. I'm sure you can see that.
But you could get a space rock come along and then land on top of it, so that way you'd be adding on to it.
Well, I'd be wondering if we took all the people from the East Coast and put them on the West Coast, would it stop the Juan de Fuca diving down? Because it was
Or
so
would
much
it make it
we'd be
dive faster?
pinching it off, and in the East Coast, would lift up higher. Just wondering.
Well, as long as it doesn't flip over, we're all
As
right.
long as it doesn't roll over.
You don't want the plate to capsize now.
Question is, how many submarines are lost in the caverns of the earth? Vast, I'm not one that giant fault lines in the middle of the ocean are more evidence than we need.
Well, if there's 7 times the amount of water than what there is on the surface of the earth, there could be lots of them lost down there.
I don't buy it. There's a tunnel down there. I don't buy it. But hey, yeah, you do. That's okay. I just don't have any evidence of it. So I was like, all right. Milkman says he has a lot of unhappy people. California is full of unhappy people. You know why? All of us happy people left. He said, screw this. They can have it, man. It's going, oh my gosh. It's like in parts of New York, you have to pay $15 to go through an intersection. Are you friggin' kidding me? So your coffee that you ordered, or your lunch that you ordered from, the group that goes in and gets your lunch for you. Well, now you got to pay an extra $15 for him to go through that one intersection. Maybe there's multiples. What if he's got 5 intersections? 15. That $20 meal just all of a sudden went to $100.
Yeah,
it's just stupid.
A new toll.
They're at least 3 times the oceans inside the earth. Yeah, Vast Thinker, I've heard of that too. But in all the studies that I've watched with Professor Nick, not one of them talk about it. Isn't that weird?
I thought it was 7 times.
Yeah, I thought it was 7 times too.
That's the updated one.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that long ago I read
You got
it.
biblical evidence in the flood taking up. Yes, I understand the flood. And for me, I can explain that to some degree. And I'm not against that whole idea. I think our understanding is I'm stuck in a submarine tunnel in California. 42. Good morning or evening. How are you, buddy? I don't know. I mean, going back to what Clem said, and his idea is, if there's 5 that's bad color, 5 particles going down here, there's 5 particles coming back up here, and it's cyclical, and that's his going theory. But is that true? If his idea is true, then I can see that. But if I draw it this way,
well, wouldn't it almost have to be? Because
no, not really. Look at the movement of the plate itself. It's like this. It's down below. It's a conveyor belt down below, not up above. So you've got the conveyor belt going this way. You know what I'm saying? The outer one, but it's a conveyor belt underneath.
The plate is part of the conveyor belt, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Again, that see, there's, I think there's a couple of ideas out there and trying to differentiate the other ideas. The one, the conveyor belt below, is what moves the plate along. If the plate's this purple line right here, the movement of the magma, as in a current, magnetic or whatever's driving it, moves the purple along. And then the subduction, and I think that's probably where you're at, the subduction brings it down. And then just past the subduction and just past the upwelling, right?
Yeah, whatever the amount subducts.
There's probably 2 conveyor belt working.
In the same amount.
Yeah. So this conveyor belt, the blue, right? It's like a recycle. But the conveyor belt underneath is what's the driving force of the plate moving at all. So this is convection. And the other one, I don't know. Retention? I don't know. I wouldn't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, Clem?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the magma underneath. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm talking about the plates themselves, whatever the amount of plate subducts, it doesn't matter if it's more on one corner or the other, but the total amount of whatever subducts into the earth comes back up
It's got to come
on the
up.
upward side.
Right.
Otherwise, the earth would shrink or be growing.
Yeah, that's the idea with the theory of the growing earth. That's why some believe that the earth is ever growing. And it's that growth that moves the plates along and that the earth is expanding. Hence, and it's moving away from the upwellings of the Atlantic Ocean. Some people believe that the Pacific Ocean came out of the Atlantic rift.
Well, I don't really believe that. I mean, I think, I don't know about your thought on it, Canuck, but I think plates can change direction at any given time.
Yeah, well, they're just plates that are moving around. Like well, I've said it so many times. It's like the ice breaking up on the river.
Right.
We're just given a certain piece of that broken ice a name, right? That's all we're doing. But it's doing the same thing. We can call it whatever we want, right?
Right.
But it's all being recycled and melted and
yeah, I see what you're saying there too, Vast.
And smashed together and lifted up and put under and
right. And the water itself underneath the ice, that's the conveyor belt. That's the driving force of what's happening on the surface, which is kind of like at the mercy of whatever the water down below is doing, moving faster or slower. And then there's something that the water presses up against, a boundary of sorts. And because the water is moving, it puts pressure on the ice itself, and the ice uplifts and then breaks and then goes under upper and lower, and cracks and all that stuff happen.
But it's based upon current and temperature, which is same thing as what we're talking about with the plates, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all the same thing,
right?
Or maybe I'm trying to simplify it too much, but
no, I think you're for me. It speaks to me because that's exactly how I see all the plates, like a sheet of ice that is solid, and then when there's an obstruction, it breaks. And just watching ice, you've seen ice do these things. I mean, Clem knows. He lives in a freaking tundra, and you can watch where one piece of ice gets shoved under another, and one gets uplifted up and over another. And, but you don't see evidence of the spreading ridges in ice. That's the only thing you don't see. Unless it's ice that's forced down below and it becomes lighter, and there's a weakness between a couple pieces of ice, and they rise up right that spot.
Yeah, actually, you do on lakes.
Yeah, because if you put something heavy on it, drive across it, it'll do that. It'll make pressure ridges and stuff.
Make pressure ridges, yeah. So
you don't even have to drive nothing heavy on it. The lake does it naturally, because when it gets super cold, the ice contracts. So then you get them cracks that form, kind of like a plate.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it warms up, it expands, and then it starts pushing that ice up. And every time it does that, as the weather gets cooler and warmer, it keeps pushing them ice ridges up higher and higher.
Right. And this is what, I think this is what goes to what Vast Thinker's thinking here. Water itself is, electricity goes through it, right? It's a conductor.
Yes.
And if it's a conductor, then it can be affected by magnetism, right? Because of
Yeah.
electromagnetics. So there are other forces like wind in the magnetosphere, or our planet's core. Some believe it's an iron, some believe it's a zinc, some believe it's a nickel. I don't. It's hot. That's all I know. I think it's more of a looks like the sun myself. I don't know if that it's gas. I don't know what the hell it is. It's plasma of some sort.
Well, and when the magma comes out and turns into lava, well, then the lava is going like water, except slower. That's how it flows, right? It flows the same as what water would do. It's just slower.
What I mean, Vast Thinker has a couple ideas that he's putting out there in regard. Taxes go up if your property gets bigger. I know, right? That's funny.
Well, taxes always go up ever since they decided to have taxes. That's just how it is.
Yeah. See, it's in a yellow submarine. I think the yellow submarine's up there in Colorado anyway. Don't eat the yellow snow. Sandra is when I drop a link movie. Evidence that Earth is spinning faster. Yeah, convincing. Is there another way for what you've observed that the Earth was spinning faster or slower, such as time? What if time is slowing down and not speeding up, or it's not constant? What if it has fluctuations like waves? It speeds up, slows down, speeds up, slows down. I don't know what the big heads think in regards to that, but I'm not totally sold that the speed of light has remained constant. I'm just not quite convinced. And that has to do with time, how we measure time, because that's what we measure time based off of. But don't know where I'm going with that one.
You measure time by you measure distance by the time it takes from the light to get point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
Is what you're saying, right?
Right. And if the speed of light was not, what is it, 187,000 miles an hour or a second? If the speed of light wasn't that, and it was 220,000, miles a second, 40,000 years ago, wouldn't the Earth spin faster or slower? They'd be spinning a hell of a lot faster.
If time is longer, that would mean that the Earth would spin faster because it would be going the same speed, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And that's kind of the direction that I kind of think about, just theoretically out there.
Well, don't they talk about back in the dinosaur era that the length of a day was actually closer to 22 hours than it was 24?
Well,
like
13
today?
months. We're actually in 13 months, not 12 years, or 12 months. Yeah. The way we number, like the agrarian calendar versus whatever what we're doing, the Italian calendar now, or the Roman calendar now. Yeah. It that all confuses the whole issue. It's like, hey, wait a minute, the times and the seasons, and the rising of the sun, the setting of the sun, and the movements. In the wintertime is like you feel like it's forever, and then in the summertime it's like, man, when's it gonna stop? It's a lot of it's perspective.
But if you went to Mars, you'd be on Mars time. So.
Right. I wonder. Yeah, because it spins slower around the sun. but it travels greater distance. So
it kind of depends on where you are, I guess. But
yeah, see, there's a lot of
What do you consider a length of a day? You know, at that point, is it 12 hours, 24, 188? You know?
it's relative.
Yep.
For it, I mean, we base everything off the the one calendar that's in England and UTC, right? That's everything's based off of that, and then we have our own kind of interpretations of it, such as it's 7 or 8 hours before me, so that whatever happens to the entire Earth happens at that time UTC. That I can go back to and see. Oh, okay, yeah. But for me, it's 7:58, and where you're at, it's 10:58, Clem. And in Canuck, I think it's 11:58. Am I right, Canuck?
Yep. That's why they have. That's why they have
here.
That's why they have the star date in Star Trek, because it depends on which star you're focusing on.
Right. Which star date you basing everything off of. So each 28 days, and then there's one day a year or every so often that is messed up. If the speed of light was constant, then explain how the expansion of space is speeding up. My next question. I don't know that it's expanding. What if it's our perception that's expanding? So far, it seems like because of the new telescope that's up there, they're starting to rethink the whole process.
Well, and us sending the probes out, we keep sending them out, and then we find, there's more stuff. Whoops. Oh, well. Got to send out another probe.
Well, until V'ger comes back and tries to get us all, right?
Yeah.
It'll try to consume us. Yeah.
The funny thing is we know more about outer space and what's going on out there than we do the inner workings of our own planet.
Right. So many rabbit holes tonight. Ground looking like a pegboard. That's a typical rabbit hole. It's like it's more of an ant hole. You go down and it's like, oh man, they could turn right. Oh no, turn left. It's like wait, there's another one. So it's kind of like that. But there's rabbit hole that has multiple entries and exits.
When the rabbit hole starts erupting, you're in trouble.
Whoa. Need more satellites out there. God bless. I think we just set up X just set up another one, right? For the French or somebody. Yeah. Telecommunications. Oh my God. Whatever.
Yep. And then they're all going to get fried by that.
They're all getting fried, dude. There's no doubt. When they start falling, they're truly going to fall. The stars will fall. Just like they did with that one flight of satellites that Elon Musk sent up. There was a solar storm and whoop, they all came back down in low Earth orbit because they didn't make it.
Well, that's how they would describe it in the Bible, right? The stars falling.
Yes, sir.
That's what it looks like, a falling star. Right?
Yes, sir.
From their perspective, so that's what they'd call it. But it could be a whole bunch of freaking satellites all falling on our heads.
And there are so many of we get into the rabbit hole in that one, but there are so many preachers out there that have preached, doom and gloom, and you're talking about the book of Revelation. The book is the unveiling of Jesus Christ, the revelation of Jesus Christ. It's like, what? Why is it titled that? Multiple visions, I caution anybody reading it and saying this is what it means. Say, you know what? Take it, meditate on it, ask the Lord about it, be blessed. But don't go out and pay somebody to interpret it for you. 1 John 2:27, you need no man teach you save the Holy Spirit. He'll teach you all things necessary and pertaining to life and godliness. That's in the Word. So let it guide you, and take what I like. Like I do, I listen to Clem, and I listen to Canuck, and I listen to Vast Thinker and Flutter Girl. You have to just, you can't be dogmatic in everything. You've got to leave the door open in case you're wrong. You know, there are some things that are clear. God is the only absolute we have. He's defined. He's defined himself. We didn't define him. He did. That's why he said, don't make any graven images of me, because it's going to be wrong. And he says, I'm not a quadruped. I'm not a cow, a golden calf. You know, you've changed the image of the incorruptible God to something that's corruptible, because guess what? It has flesh or stone or this or that. It can get destroyed. He can't be. So you gotta have a higher thought process there. But anyway, that's another rabbit hole. You know, he'll give it to you liberally, yes. And be careful when you ask. You know, you ask for patience. Sometimes trials happen so that you develop patience. You know, you ask for wisdom. Sometimes hard times comes because you have to learn how to work it way through it. You know, and be careful what you ask for. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, you have to search and be humble, and to get to the truth. You're right, Flutter Girl.
I got one for you.
Go ahead, bud.
Well, in all actuality, wouldn't you think the Earth should actually be shrinking, because we take the resources out of the planet, we turn them into rockets and satellites and stuff, and then we shoot them in the outer space?
You're right. Yeah, I wonder about that. And you know, energy is supposed to never die. It just changes forms. What about all those farts I had? What happened there? It turned into a gas. Where'd all that gas go? Did it expand the horizon?
Back into the atmosphere.
It's stuck in the atmosphere.
Yeah. Is it so the atmosphere is expanding? I know there's times when we get solar wind that at the right time, the Earth's atmosphere touches the moon and creates water. That's interesting.
Must be like when it's blowing like 900 miles an hour, huh?
I don't know. I just thought it was wild. And the Earth is supposed to be leaving the moon is leaving our atmosphere, or wherever it's tied to, but I think an inch every year or something.
Yeah,
it's not going to
be. Yeah, it's supposed to be getting farther away.
Yeah.
It's trying to escape.
And it's trying to escape. What does that mean? Does it mean the Earth is slowing down? And if the Earth is slowing down, does it mean the Earth is getting bigger? But if it's getting bigger, then why isn't it pulling the moon to itself? Because it's gaining mass. Interesting.
Well, for it to get bigger, it would have to be gaining mass.
Yeah, well, it gains mass every day from when the sun is giving it protons, electrons, creating molecules that go into the bottom of the recesses of our Earth, come up as whatever, gold, silver.
You don't
platinum.
think it escaped out the backside of it, though?
I think some of it does escape. Yes, sir. Some of it gets, and it's all having to do with magnetism. Some particles get bound, and some are free particles that don't get bound. They get unbound. So I don't know. Maybe that's kind of the theory that we're looking at here. You know,
all the other planets should be getting bigger too, or the other moons, or whatever. You'd think if everything was expanding.
That's an interesting. A Vast Thinker. That's an interesting thought press. He says the universe is expanding at one speed and the speed of light. Or is it time? Can you go faster than the speed of light? Can anything go faster than the speed of light? Yeah, distances between spaces is the only thing in. Yeah. Interesting ideas. Time to call Spock. We have our own Spock. Canuck, answer the question.
Well, Romulan time is all screwed up now because their star blew up. The
Yeah, their
Romulan
star blew up,
went
yeah.
supernova. So I don't know how they tell time now.
Yeah.
Their star's blown up. I don't know what you're going to base it on.
Yeah, interesting. The idea of teleportation with time, going places and coming back. Did you age when you did it? You ever been somewhere and you didn't go there, but you were there? The inquirer wants to know.
It just
How
depends.
wackadoodle are you?
It just depends in what dimension you were in when you were there.
Right.
Right.
And the idea of dimensions. What does that mean? That means is length, width, height, and depth, right? And a dimension. How do you measure that dimension? Because if time is in this dimension, the only measurement, what happens when you translate into another dimension where you can't, what's measuring that? So the idea of having all these different, I think there's 13 dimensions now. I think that's what I heard. It could be off. I got the
I've heard
highest
10.
dimension. You've heard of 10? I think I've heard of 13 dimensions, but I'm not sure about any of them. Yeah, Eden's joking.
Well, maybe if you have dementia, you can see some of the other dimensions. Who knows?
Well, dementia is an interesting concept because I'm dealing with it now. I have a mother-in-law who lives with me. She deals with dementia. And dementia, in her case, is that she doesn't remember things. I don't know if that's good or bad. Her capacity to remember is limited. But then again, I guess I saw somebody's TikTok that said dementia is basically type 3 diabetes. And all the pharmaceutical companies know it, yet they're still peddling a bunch of shit. Why? Because that's how they make money. They're not concerned with dementia. They're concerned with making money. And, whatever. So it's and a person in dementia, and they don't remember, did time stop for them? And is it new every minute?
Well, they're kind of moving around in different times because
Right.
sometimes they remember short-term stuff, sometimes they remember long-term stuff.
Right.
So it just depends.
So are they
all over the
are they a
place.
time walker then?
They could be in their mind.
Yeah.
Maybe it's everything.
Time traveler, right?
Or a dimension traveler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence the word dementia.
Yeah. So they just have to go through the portal or the Stargate, but we don't want to get into that on this channel.
Best thing we could study for physical health is the word, but detox is the key. All the nutrients are in the herbs and spices that we put in the food, but we need the fiber. As far as I can see, you can't get fat from vegetables and fruits. So have a buffet. So, yeah. Have your cake and eat it too. Yeah.
I'd recommend fakes.
Yeah. And I had a doozy of one last night. Boy, that was good. Yeah, man. It was every bit as good as my tri-tips, I'll tell you.
Location, Fiji Islands region, class, moderate, magnitude, 5.3, depth, 10 kilometers, in 49 minutes.
In 49 minutes, what?
Is that a quake to come?
I don't know what that said. That was weird.
What the hell, man?
Okay, who ordered the quake?
It hasn't happened yet, but we're there's a bit of a swarm building up. There's at least 3 that U.S. is doing.
It's a time traveling quake, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Jumped ahead.
It looks like Tonga is ramping up again. Tonga Happy Eye exploded here 2 years ago now, but we have 5.3
11 minutes ago on my app, but I don't know where the 49 thing came from.
Well, it said in 49 minutes.
In 49 minutes.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I recorded that too. It's like, what? Oh my God.
Who ordered the quake?
Canuck, are you eating chocolate?
No, I haven't had any chocolate since supper time. So it's
okay. All right. So be good. I had hey, there was a quake up there in Ohio. Again, a 3.0 Maple Ridge. All right. Did you know about that? All right. People can see this good. Still pretty good little grouping down in the lower Andes, Bolivia. Interesting that Brazil shot down a plane yesterday. They shot the damn thing down. It was flying in their airspace, and they said, no. Boop. Blew it up. Okay, interesting there. East Pacific Rise had a 5.1, and off the East Pacific Rise, a 4.7, and that's not on the plate boundary. I think the Garrett fracture zone, cracked. Galapagos Rise. Oh shoot, the Galapagos are way the hell up here. Whatever. That happened. Puerto Rico is still bouncing all over the place. It's picking up speed, looks like. SoCal just had a little one just now, a little 1.3 in Glen Avon. Wah waggy. San Bernardino today.
Location, Fiji region, class, moderate, magnitude, 5.2, depth, 35 kilometers in 46 minutes.
46.
Quakes.
Oh my God, there's 2 quakes happening. The U.S. just doesn't have it. It hasn't happened yet. 46 minutes from now.
Yeah, I don't know why on earth it's saying that. It's the first time I've ever heard it do that. That's
Alexa,
weird.
where's the Antichrist? He's in Turkey right now.
It's funny we're talking about time and dimensions, and now the freaking earthquake apps like.
Hey, we're in
Messing
a
up
new
the
dimension,
times.
dude. Hey, we're in a new dimension. Come on. I once told Clem that I was a time traveler. He's like, what? It scared him a little bit. I think my buddy's losing his marbles.
Don't worry, Joe. When I come down there, we'll give you a thrill check.
Oh,
Give you a good mental health check.
No, my wife will do that. Thank you very much. That's funny in 46 minutes. I know, right? That's the second one supposed to happen. What the hell? We're all time travelers. Funny doesn't understand the physics and the joke. You're right. We're all time travelers. You're right, Bass Thinker. Yeah. There's some unsaid things that I intend to talk with him about. Hold on. I'm going to step out just for a sec. We could continue the discussion, please. I can hear my lady in the background.
I don't know. I don't know why the Quake app's doing that. I've never heard it do that before. So
No, that's kind of funny. That's the first time I've heard it do that.
Yeah. But I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand because when I go in it's not saying like what it's saying. So I don't know. It's pretty weird. Yeah, it has 2 different ones on there now. One,
okay.
They're both the same time, but one is EMSC and the other one is GFC. So I don't know if it's getting all confused because there's two things at once. Because it has like different depths all at the same time.
Okay.
But it's based upon probably who's reporting it and how they're doing the calculation. Because
Right.
on mine it tells me how many kilometers it is away from me, and they're 2 different kilometers. Too.
Okay.
So it just depends on the calculation. But I don't know why it's doing that 46-minute thing. I've never heard it do that before.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Is on your apps, them ones coming out from by Fiji and stuff, doesn't that come from GeoNet first? Isn't that kind of their system?
Not necessarily, because it depends on who the, like, whatever the seismo belongs to.
Oh, okay.
GeoNet, yeah, they just, I don't know how the app does it. It's getting it from all the different ones. Because usually for the New Zealand and Kermadec quakes, it's usually GeoNet. But once it gets up closer to Tonga and Fiji, sometimes you'll get different ones, depending on
Okay.
which one's reporting it.
Yeah.
Because on mine, like, there's just was a quake in Chile, and it gives me the CSN, it's the Chile Seismic Network agency that reports those. So, like, on my app, it's giving me all the actual, like,
It's
when
giving
it's
you
first,
the agency
yeah,
that's reporting it.
yeah, when it's first reporting it. Now, when they upgrade it or whatever, it may come back as like EMSC or USGS or whatever.
Right.
But like when it's first reported, sometimes I get 2 different ones. Like what it did for the Fiji one,
Okay.
it gave me the first one looks like was GFC, which is Geophone Potsdam, the Germans, because they have seismos all over the friggin' place that they've installed, and then the other one is EMSC. So, but it's basically the same quake. It's just they're doing the calculations on it different. And at some point, they'll, whenever there's an upgrade to it again or downgrade or whatever, they just pick one.
Right.
But I've seen
Are
that like happen a whole bunch of times on this app where you get like 2 different ones reported from 2 different agencies at first, but then they go back and put it into one.
are like these people that own these seismographs or whatever?
Earthquake
You know what?
upgraded to 5.5 from 5.2. Location, Tonga, in 40 minutes, 1:01 a.m. Class, moderate. Depth, 10 kilometers.
Yeah, I don't know
Are
what.
are these people allowed to, from, let's say USGS, they got their seismos, are they allowed to put them in Canada and Australia and all over the place? Is that kind of
Yeah,
a big restriction?
because like each place has their own. Like I know we bought Canada has seismos that they bought from like the Germans. Even though we use them on our network, they're still ones that were made by the Germans.
Okay.
Like you'd have to look it up for like each specific place to figure out which ones they were using or where they got the seismos from, or if they made their own or whatever. It gets crazy.
Looks like one of them showed up a 5.5 off of Tonga.
Yeah, because now they've changed it to Tonga. Because one of the ones that said Fiji now is switched to Tonga. But now the agency reporting that is NEIC, which is basically USGS. So now the USGS one overrode one of the other ones. It was EMSC before. So it just depends on what this app picks, right? Whichever one.
Yeah.
And then they'll change the name or whatever on it depending on.
Rat Islands had a
Which one it is.
5.8 today.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of 5s now. 5 over in Rat Shit Tajikistan. 4 there in Pakistan. But it looks like Tonga popping with 5s. And I think I told you, I said, they call it Fiji, but it was really Tonga. Tonga's popping 4.8, Huama, Tonga.
Well, I don't think I've seen as many earthquakes in the last few days, total number, but the intensity of them is definitely getting stronger, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. 4.9 Tonga, 5.1 Tonga, 5.3 Tonga. Now these are only what USGS shows. For sure, if we went to the New Zealand people, they would, Australia. Here's Australia's. Look at that. But I think this is 30 days, just like the darn whatever here. 327. Okay. So, a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, it just depends. Yeah, it just depends on how the agency is showing them, right? Whatever they decided, whatever.
Call that one Fiji and 328. So 2 days ago. Yeah, I think Australia does it like 30 days or as well. So it's like, whatever, dude. Whatever.
Yeah. So it's just whatever they decide how they do the thing.
Latest quakes. I don't know who this one.
It would just be nice if all the agencies could go to like an industry standard. You have your 30-day feed, you have your 7-day feed, and your 1-day feed.
Well, it'd be nice. They'd have to all agree, though. That's the problem.
Right.
That's like putting 100 truck drivers in a room and having them all agree on one thing. Never happens.
Yeah, Tonga 22 minutes ago. And 46 minutes ago was Greece. That was a 2.6 though, not a 5.5. So we still have a half an hour for something else to pop over here, right? Is that how it works?
I guess so.
All right.
Because the Chile quake's supposed to be in 38 minutes, according to what it says on here now. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, Chilean quake.
Yeah.
I suppose if I did the I'll look at go here to shut them off. All right. Dynamic Earth. Looks like it's still popping. Japan just had a little bump. Reno, small, little gaseous. That's it. I know. Yeah. So that's what's going on right now. But yeah, whatever. Right?
Oh, Vast Thinker wants to know the system you're using, Canuck. Earthquake prediction.
Yeah.
Where do you get predicted?
It's all combined.
Right.
It's all combined into one, I guess.
Yeah, his little brain. Yeah.
Because I know the guy that makes the earthquakes tracker app, he's in Romania. That's where he makes it from.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, and he's made it so it connects somehow to all the different agencies, which I have no clue how he did that. But
programming.
Yeah. But like it's way better than Earthquake 3D because I'm getting like every freaking agency known on the planet, which is basically how I've learned all the different names of the agencies. So that's how, if I want to go and look up a specific place, then I just look up that agency name and you can find out even more information.
Yeah, that's what I do too. I try to keep abreast of all these. What is it?
Because like USGS and EMSC are just the big ones, right?
Right. Alamax is another great resource, but they get theirs thrown out all the time. mean, I'm looking at Tonga Islands had a 5. What's the date on this? 7:37, and then it had another 5.2 at 140. Oh no, 301, and the other one was at what? God bless America. Sorry here, Gray, 2207. So at 4 hours ago, maybe 5 hours. That's 3 and 2. That's 5 hours ago. So 5 hours apart, Tonga popped twice, and then Fiji did it again late yesterday at 1800, and Tonga popped at that same time 1600. So yeah, Tonga popped. Tonga's doing its thing, and on Alamax the ball, magic ball, they're all different. Even the Fiji one is different. So that's pretty far out.
Yeah, because you could go and study the history of like all the different quake agencies and alternate quake things and all that. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Cross-feeding vents, I'd say. All right.
And they're all doing stuff slightly differently depending on.
Right. When it comes to like predicting earthquakes, I tend to say, a place of interest that I'm watching in an area, because just seeing the progression. Like I have a theory where around the Pacific, it's going counterclockwise rather than clockwise, like a lot of people think. Starts in Fiji and goes all the way around. I think Fiji's the weakest link, and it's going around the other way, and it's at the end.
Well, I think it just goes up and down the lineaments depending on how it's charged.
Well, I think it hits the lineaments, and that's where it explodes. Yeah. Kind of like in your brain, which what do you call it? Synapse is going to fire off. It depends on the connection. What's lit up that moment?
Because I think that also explains how it props when you watch it on the specs and how the fault reports are. Like you can go back in time and see that the fault reports on the big historical quakes or whatever and how it goes. You'll see that that's where it props, and how they feel it is based upon the liniment lines. So it's pretty crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all have a perspective and maybe not a clear understanding of something, as mine. That's why I enjoy our conversations, and I'm not the sharpest tool on this stuff because I never studied it in my life, but I've always found it interesting how things work and how things happen. And I have some ideas that come from somewhere, and I don't know where, but they're from somewhere. But,
well, there's moon quakes and Mars quakes. And
Mars quakes, yeah. Hey, and that little what is it called? That asteroid, farted again here the other day. Blew out another as it's approaching the sun.
Yeah, the Devil's Comet has a volcano on it.
Yeah. But we have to discover the meaning of the one that's going to come off on Friday the 13th in 2029. Apophis.
Yeah, Apophis.
The devil's worm blood or wormwood.
Yeah, Apophis was in Stargate, but they killed him after the first couple seasons.
Yeah. But,
which strikes me funny because all these names are in like all these science fiction shows. So.
Well, nothing is unique. Everything is. Look at Hollywood. Hollywood's like regurgitating everything because they're they can't think outside the damn box. They're only thinking about their own boxes.
And Stargate's coming back by 2025.
3D Earth depth.
Updated
All the
stuff
dimensions.
I read today or watched today.
I think Vast Thinker, I think that would be really cool if we could really see what was under the ground in some sort of intelligible description. But it's all theory because we can't. We use instruments to say, hey, this is what's happening. This is where they're happening. This is where the earthquake's happening. They 3D on that. Well, it's down here. Here's the epicenter. And then here's the other center where it actually happened. When it hits the earth, the top of the earth, whatever. Then it bounces everywhere. Prop Z, the props, and then the P wave and the S wave and the whatever wave. It goes around the planet a couple of times. Rings like a bell. I would like to see those things. I bet they know where all the minerals are, all the underground dumb bases, etc., right to the inside of the earth. Well, I don't believe there's a earth inside the earth, but maybe that's where space aliens come from, and that's the other channel.
Yeah. Well, the crust of the earth is different thickness depending on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it is for Iceland. I looked it up one other time.
Wherever they took Admiral Byrd is inside of the earth. Well, it's called the land of the lost. Where the Sleestaks live. The Sleestaks are the lizard people, and that's who's living in Biden right now, I guess, right?
Yeah, because usually it's like
that movie.
The crust is thickest where you have big mountains, or the center of the continent.
You watch that one there, Clem?
Yeah, I think it was called The People Under the Stairs or something like that.
I don't know. Was that a horror movie?
Yeah, it was.
I didn't watch it. I don't play with devils. I just no reason for me to do that. But some people like to do that, and my brother is one of them, but he's paying a price now. But up to him. A series of earthquakes has moved through Alaska pretty strongly, from Rat Islands all the way into central Alaska, even up to the north. So that would indicate that the Pacific is banging into that subduction zone pretty hard. I think even Prince William Sound looks like it got. No, it wasn't Prince William. It's behind it actually. Valdez, Prince William Sound. But the other one, Yakutat, had a 2.1 today as well. And Yakutat, I think that's where the big tsunami hit. And, because the land slid into the water and created a massive tsunami. And, I guess, I don't know, did that fisherman survive, Canuck? When that tsunami hit, him and his son were on that boat? Were they killed?
I think so, because they were the ones that reported it. No, there was more than one, by what I read about the Yakutat quake. I can't remember what they did. They went in the boat or something, and then
they were in the boat in the bay, a fishing boat, a guy and his son, and they watched the damn thing come in, and they went up and over it.
Yeah, and they rode it wherever it went to, or wherever it put them, or whatever.
Yeah, and
I think there was other fishermen too. It wasn't just.
Yeah, there were some people on the shore, I think.
Yeah. I read about a bunch of different things on it now. I can't remember all what it all was, but it was several people. It wasn't just two people.
Yeah, the red hats go on the other channel, Flutter Girl.
Oh, I just looked up the crustal thickness in Iceland for fun.
Oh yeah.
And it says it varies from 15 to 20 kilometers beneath the Reykjanes Peninsula, Krafla, and the extinct Snaefell-Lysnes Rift Zone to 46 kilometers beneath central Iceland. So then they average it out and say the average thickness of the crust in Iceland is 29 kilometers. 29 kilometers.
Well, remember that lady I played here a couple years ago? She said Iceland's not an island; it's part of the continent.
Yeah.
And this idea that it's part of the an island that's being created out of nothing is BS. She said she studied Iceland for 40 years, and she's an English professor of some sort. Every time somebody talks about Iceland, I think of what she said, because she was very staunch against the idea that Iceland is none other than, or is nothing else more than part of the North American continent, or the joining of the two continents, the European and the North American.
But it is important to understand all this stuff, because it all
Absolutely.
has to do with the quake depth, right? Is it actually in the crust, or is it in the subducting plate that's under the crust?
Right. And in Iceland, there is no subducting plate. It's rising up, isn't there?
Yeah, but
So it's splitting apart.
for some reason there they've had 400-kilometer deep quakes.
Earthquakes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, could it be a
Iceland
bubble?
the thickest part of the plate too that's expanding? It's coming out of that ridge. Like if you were to go down south of Iceland, let's say 1,000 miles, that part of the plate you would think would be thinner, wouldn't you?
Well, I have it on screen in case you're looking at, USGS or JSL as well. The fault system that works through there is the plate divide.
I understand that, but
Right.
Canuck was talking about a couple minutes ago about how the crust thickness there
Right.
in Iceland is 15 to 20 kilometers deep. Well, if you went 1,000 miles south down the Atlantic Ridge, is the plate still 15 to 20 kilometers thick, or is it thinner? I guess it's a question I'm
Like
asking.
if we were coming down the Rick James Ridge, the Rick James Ridge is a ridge that's an upwelling, right?
Yeah, oceanic crust is usually thinner than continental crust. That's the general rule.
And then you have the Iceland Faroe Rise, which is between Denmark, which is the Faroe Islands, and Iceland. It was once a time then when all the ice was happening that there was land bridge from Europe all the way to Iceland, and from Iceland all the way over to, Greenland. So if the water was way lower, and I think we did some studies where the North Sea was like empty, in the old days, and the Shetland Islands are just the top of the mountains that are, because the water has risen so high, because it's all
like I just read new stuff just in the last couple of days that Gibraltar is its own microplate, and there's a subducting plate under the Ligurian Sea that's going in under Gibraltar, the Gibraltar microplate, which is probably why they can have those big quakes over there, like they did in 1887. And all that stuff. So now they've got all that stuff all mapped with the new mantle topography, and they're trying to figure out the boundaries of it and this, that, and the other thing. And it's just crazy.
It looks like the pre-flood world was 400 feet lower, and its oceans. Would you agree? Pre-flood is, depending on the year, I think you're talking about 3,500 BC or thereabouts. I think based on what I think you're right at, fast thinker, maybe 45. So some people believe. I'm in a literal,
Well, it depends on how much ice is frozen, how much ice is not frozen, right?
Yeah. And if you can get a flood easily if something hit the earth.
Yeah.
And poked a hole in the depths of the water. Again, how do you describe seeing water suddenly burst up in the air?
Or it's an earthquake breaking the land bridge or the ice bridge.
Right.
Which I've never seen, or I haven't heard anybody say that, but it's possible because there still would have been earthquakes, right? So, like, they're always trying to find some big thing that an asteroid came down and hit here and caused it to do this, but it may not have been that. It could have been just a big earthquake, right?
Right.
Like, say, if there was a 7.5 up by where Salt Lake City is now, well, say that broke ancient glacial lake Bonneville. Say there was a big earthquake there and it broke wherever the water was held back, and then it all came out. So it could be an earthquake. It doesn't necessarily have to be some other big massive event. It could be any one of those things, right?
Well, think of Wawa blowing up 35 million years ago, right?
Yeah.
40 million years ago. What did the United States look like then? Well, the Colorado Plateau was underwater. And California didn't exist. Or did it? Parts of it. The original Cascades, the Cascades that we have now are a series of 9 or so volcanoes. Well, there are more ancient ones that existed that are no longer there. They're dead. The ghost volcanoes that Professor Nick talked about. That go all the way down to Mount Whitney and all them. Mount Whitney's the belly of a volcano that's been brought up to the surface. So it's like, how does that happen? And how did the Great, why is the Great Basin spreading apart? Whatever. But if Wawa blew up and there was a bunch of water or lake full of ice in another ice dam, do you think that would also leak everywhere? Yeah, I mean, shoot, it was supposed to be bigger than all of the explosions out of Yellowstone combined. It was the biggest explosion in the whole world in history, that's so far that they can determine. And that didn't happen very long ago. The dinosaurs died before that. Halfway from us to the dinosaurs. Was there a flood then? 35 million years ago? Shoot, they've seen North American people, 20,000 to 30,000 years ago in North America. They dated them. I don't know. I don't know where this idea of time in our concept and what we measure it, if it fits. We can see tectonically that in the last 40 years, we can see the entire desert of Southern Cal, Death Valley, the Mojave Desert, which is part of the larger Sonoran Desert, moved somewhat 17, 15 and 13, some 40 feet in 40 years. It doesn't take a whole lot, just 3 quakes to move the whole desert 40 feet. Add 500 quakes and put it in 500 years. And wow, things can move a lot faster. So part of these things that we talk about is like, I don't know, man. I have to always challenge what they're being said. The female professor at the University of Texas who loved archaeology found the T-Rex with blood and fresh tissue. Okay, explain how T-Rex and blood and tissue viable today for DNA sequencing for their DNA, Dr. Monroe's Island. And she was fired for talking about it. That's real news. Was it frozen? You know, the first question I had to solve was the rate of erosion in the surface of the earth based on the time periods in erosion. We would have had 350 totally brand new earth surfaces if all things being equal, even factoring for punctuated equilibrium. Yeah, recycling, I think that's what you're saying there, Vast Thinker. You can correct me if I'm wrong. 350 of them, totally brand new earth surfaces in 6.5 billion years. I don't buy the 6.5 billion, but you know, if the Lord did it in 7 days, whose 7 days are they? They're surely not his. Why? Because God doesn't measure time. Time was made for man. Therefore, what? Those are man times. Days would be a man. So physical 7 days. I don't know. Maybe it's a perception thing. I don't know. Lord hung on the universe like a picture. Yeah. Yeah, interesting, Vast. I'm intrigued.
Well, if God is beyond time or timeless, then time really only applies to us.
Mm-hmm. So any talk about time is related to man.
Yeah.
And if man didn't exist until he existed, then what happened from the time that he created until the time that he created man? Time didn't exist. He said he hung the stars and all that stuff to help with time, to create seasons and times. Far out stuff, man. You got to think outside the box a little bit.
But even the angels were created beings, so they have a set time too, right? But it applies to them, and it applies to us, and it applies to the planets and the universe. But
interesting. If
I don't know, it's you start thinking about all this stuff, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, see, you have to kind of go into the religious side of things to understand time, because our first inklings of looking at time was from a religious point of view, and scientific point of views came out of most religions. Doctors and stuff came out of all that stuff, and how we look at things and how we create a scientific method. Hey, can we recreate this and test it and test it and test it? Well, if it's still happening, then it's probably more likely that that's true. But
time is how we calculate it, is based upon lightness and darkness, right? So if you didn't have lightness and darkness, how could you calculate time?
Right.
See?
That's another
time itself is just a relative term invented by man, so he has the concept to understand
his mortality.
Yeah, basically.
That's what it's about. Yeah. And so Satan knows his days are cut short. Just a thought.
It doesn't matter if it's 7 minutes or 7 billion years. If time doesn't mean anything, then
do angels die? Are angels going to die?
No, but
interesting thought, Flutter. Interesting thought.
People aren't going to die either, right? So you either go to one place or the other. And that's the same with angels or the demons, the bad angels. Angels
are not immortal. passing of time like the sundials of the past, like the stars of the moon and the sun's given for signs and for seasons. Yeah. Yeah. Everything created. Now, can I really mess you up? Can I really
Was it
mess you up?
created or was it reincarnated?
Yeah. What does it mean to be created? Something come from nothing, or something come from something and was fashioned into something, right? God created man from the dust.
Yep. And we
Right.
return to it after we die.
And we turn to it, right? But what God did was he gave us a breath of life, and he created something out of something that he created, and he called it a living soul. And we've defined the living soul as being a mind, will, and emotions of who you are. You can cut your hand off, but it doesn't change who you are. It changes what you're able to do. And you can fashion something and put it in a spot that was there like a hand and still be able to act as though you hadn't lost that hand. So it doesn't change who you are. So there's something inside of you that's different. And the gospel message is that God sent somebody to tell you something that is about salvation, saving you from something unto something. Okay, so what we all know that man is doing, hey, we're all dying, right? Everything in us is dying. But yet this guy gave a message and he said, God loves us. Well, okay, he loves us. What's the big deal? No, but he's giving you the opportunity to live everlasting. Well, what does that mean?
Well, so what you're saying is God gave life to that piece of dust.
Mm-hmm. He gave the breath of life is on loan to us because we're dying. We have flesh.
Well, basically,
that's our husk.
everything is dying because of sin, right?
Yeah, because God judged sin to be into the flesh. So he did it once and for all. So all flesh will die. And God, the stench of it, don't worry about it. So if you look at what you are, you're a living soul. You have a mind, will, and emotions. Who you are, you identify yourself. You can see yourself in the mirror. Your body is a husk or a holding thing that holds your soul. Now, if our death is the death of our body, but our soul wouldn't have a place to go. So it would go into outer darkness. Right? That's kind of the phrase. But if God gave you something that your soul can go into, you would live everlasting based upon what that new creation is. And that's called your spirit. Your spirit, which is begotten out of God. The same word gnosko, same word for Jesus being generated, is the same word for you being regenerated. How can I go into my mother's womb and be born again? Well, how can you be a teacher and not know these stupid things? It's simple. So if God gave you something for your soul to, when your body dies, to go into, it'll translate to the next world or the next wherever spirits go. Man is different than the angels. It said that God made him a little lower than the angels, but yet raised him above. If angels were mortal, no holding back, gentlemen. In the real universe, that's where there really is like a movie, Jupiter Ascending. I thought that movie, Jupiter Ascending, was pretty interesting, to tell you the truth. Would not be able to be destroyed. Anything that's created can be destroyed, Flutter Girl. That's why Jesus was able to be dead. He died. And it was God who raised him from the dead. He says, I have this promise. If I lay my life down, I will receive it again. Because God promised me if I lay it down. And that's exactly what happened. And then he translated why? Because his spirit was alive again. and it was swallowed up by life, which is what Paul talks about. Well, immortality was given immortality after his resurrection. Typo. If I lay it down, I can pick it up again, because God gave him that right. Because, well, again, it's the choice. Jesus didn't have to lay his life down, but to be obedient, he did. He had to obey God, because God said, you're going to do this. And because you do this, I'm going to give you life again. That's why when Jesus said, why have you forsaken me? Because he did. He had to die. He had to be like us. He was like us. He's a created person like us. The man, Christ Jesus, was like us. He died, but he had something. He was the firstborn of many brethren. He was given something that we didn't have. And now he gave us the opportunity to obtain that. 1 John. We're all sinners, therefore we need a Savior. Christ took place of the cross. I didn't know anything but that would do that for me except Christ. I thank God for it. No doubt. No doubt, Vast Thinker. But we've stopped short. What Christ did for us was give us the opportunity. And that's what we find in John 1, I think. They gave him the opportunity to become the children of God. What do you mean? You can be a child of God? Yeah. Yep. In the beginning was the Word. Yeah. Somebody had to speak the word. Mm-hmm. The Word was with God. The Word was God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Yeah. That's a prophetic word, foreknown in all the eras. That's what it means. It's speaking of the prophetic word. You're such a great person on this, speaking very positively. And that's what in John, the first chapter of John, it's right there. That's explaining the prophetic word. He was foreknown before time. Because God said, yeah, in this day and age, I'm going to put my son there. Bang. The heir of all things, the heir apparent, the one who's going to inherit everything. That's why you have the 1 Corinthians 15 saying that in the end, he'll turn it all over to the Father. So that God will be all and in all. I look at earthquakes around the planet, not all we do here. Therefore, that's me. It's really simple, but it's complex. I don't know why we got onto this. This is a weird rabbit hole. Sorry about that, Canuck.
We're everywhere. We're covering it all. Well, so
no, I mean it is Resurrection Day is important, and that's what we're talking about here. And they've made it so complex that hardly anybody enters the kingdom of God anymore. They've made it so complex. It's not. You believe the overlapping of the moon eclipse and the comet Satan passing between will cause other magnetic poles tapping the weakness of the central faults? Loving this rabbit hole, he says. It's definitely a rabbit hole. I believe is a funny word, but the overlapping moon eclipse and the comet Satan passing between will cause other magnetic pole tapping the weakness of the central United States fault. I'm not sure.
Some people what is he trying to say with that? I mean,
that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to ask.
Our magnetic pole is going to get pulled down toward the central U.S. as that comet goes by, and then snap back up and.
Well, I think it's activating the liniment line. And if
When you
look
say,
at
hold
it-
on, let's break down that. When you say activating, what do you mean by activating? Because I would like to get in your brain a little bit and pick it apart so I can get your definition, because I might have a
well,
different concept of
if
that.
it's a magnetic field line,
Okay. What does that mean?
well, it's coming from the core of the earth, so it's the magnetosphere of the earth responding to whatever these other things that have magnetic fields. You could call it the comet or the eclipse, and there's supposed to be a planetary alignment that day too, where all the planets are all aligned.
Really? Let's
Yeah,
look at
because I've been
let's look at the planet positions here. And let's go out to I think we can probably go out to the there's the
and
8th.
all this other stuff. We'll
There-
see if it has
There's
does that or
4-8
not.
right there.
Who knows?
What's the planet? We're looking at 4-8 now on the screen. What planet alignment are we looking at? Earth to Mercury to Jupiter to Uranus.
Yeah, I think Uranus is the farthest one out in
Mhm.
the in whatever
Waimea
they like there.
is beyond that, but it's on the other side of the Earth.
Yeah. So I don't know. We're just gonna have to wait. And
Right.
See what
I mean, the Earth will be on the opposite side of Jupiter. Jupiter is our protector, so they say. I've heard it said. What's the strongest magnetic force in our solar system right here? The sun, right? So can one electromagnetic force block another electronic magnetic force? I don't know about circuitry because I don't know. I understand.
Location, off coast of Costa Rica. Class, moderate.
Costa
Magnitude,
Rica.
5.1. Depth, 50 kilometers in 41 minutes.
Costa Rica, 41 minutes.
Hi, your lovely ghost. Yeah, we talk a lot about different stuff here. Yeah. And yeah, we talk a lot of different things here on the rabbit hole. So we just kind of normally on your backup channel now, subscribe. Normally on the backup channel. Okay. But they are also retesting CERN on that day too. I find that interesting, Eden, too. And the idea of what were those things called? Canuck, the ball zinging around when I sent that to you. Portals.
Yeah, the portals or stargates or whatever you want to call them.
Well, I guess my question is talking about the magnetic fields, and I think Vast Thinker, he's got a few things to say about that. Can Jupiter, which is on the other side of the sun from us on the 8th, can Jupiter's magnetic force affect the Earth through the sun's magnetic force?
Well, there's magnetic field lines from the sun to every planet, right?
Right. Now, what I'm saying is, through a magnetic field, can you touch another magnetic field? Or does the magnetic field control everything within its enclave of magnetic field?
Well, I think one responds to the other one, if you want to simplify it.
Oh, you mean
they become have the same polarity or the
they're part of the
polarity.
same system? That what you're saying, right? Part of the same system?
Yeah, because that's what they're saying now. If you read all the current studies on everything, like all the space rocks have a magnetic field. So once they come, like whatever the distance
from the
is,
cloud or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Well, from wherever they come from,
Mm-hmm.
they were all magnetized at whatever that point was. So when they come closer to another thing that has a magnetic field, it interacts with it.
Sure.
So this is what they're saying for everything now. So it's not just space rocks. Now they say tsunamis have a magnetic field. So you can detect the tsunami magnetic field before the tsunami actually forms. So all these different things have magnetic fields now. So if you can detect them, you can see how one is interacting with the other and relating to different things. And this is stuff we're just like starting to figure out now, right?
Mhm.
So all these things that fly in the vicinity of Earth can affect our magnetosphere. And if that's what's causing quakes and everything else, why all these different things, it's not just one thing. It could be a combination or it could be one single thing, but it's just
Right.
crazy all the stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think
Any variables.
everything has this magnetic field, what you're saying there. I'm just trying to stay with continuity here. If everything has a magnetic field, let's just put it out there, say it does. Is there a magnetic field like the sun's magnetic field that it is so powerful that it won't allow any other magnetic field to interact? Meaning, does it block out all other magnetic fields? Because what we got the I don't know what it. Well, let me see. It's called the Ulum or whatever. Yeah, an M5 and an M8 today, baby. Whoa.
Well, wouldn't that be based on the strength of the magnetic field and how far you are from it?
Yeah. I'm going to get to that. You're right on that same spot when I was thinking. There is the Ulu neutron counts, right? So when the sun is very active, the neutron counts go really low. So if the sun is less active, the neutron counts go really high. And so if the sun is close to us and in between that other entity, Jupiter being the strongest and the largest other planet, having its mass affect everything around it, does the power of the sun stop that effect? Or does Jupiter modulate the sun's activity that affects our Earth? Do you know what I'm saying? Like you have two electromagnetic waves, and it changes it a little bit. So it modulates it, the frequency or whatever. So if there's a line of planets, let's say like Uranus and Jupiter, right? There's a line. This is like a doubling effect, so to speak. And so when the sun is here and we're here, this modulates the sun's activity, which in turn changes some activity here on Earth. Is that what we're saying when, the Devil's Comet and the solar eclipse that happens across the United States, that's the focal point of going across all these biblical named cities across the United States, that everything's aligning up in the stars, that something big's going to happen in central United States? I can't get there just myself because I don't know, but that's what's being said.
Well, we're just
said because this thing
wait and see what it does.
Right, this plant, this thing on 4/8, it's just going to block out the sun across the United States. It's the moon or something gets in the way, right?
Yeah, but the comet that was flying over in 1811 is a different one from the Devil's Comet.
Okay.
Because the one from 1811 is not supposed to fly over again until, I think it's set its orbit's like 2,970 years or something like that, or 2790. I can't remember. It's not supposed to come back till like 40 something. I think it said the same one that was over that was around when New Madrid happened. But they know when the last 4 New Madrid quakes were. But
Right.
you'd have to go and look and see if there was other comets at that point in time that they recorded, because it has to be like seen ones,
You see,
visible.
that's the scientific method you're trying to create, and I love that about our discussions, because you'll see a pattern persist. If this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, and then it happens again, 100, 200, 500 years later, the same thing, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, then we can kind of draw a conclusion that these are factors that make play that this is happening. Yet the earth is moved, the continents moved, the lineaments, if they are electromagnetic, which I think by definition we believe they to be, yet they're magnetically attached to specific parts of the crust because there's a concentration of that stuff. And if it gets pulled, so like I said, 2 magnets on a table pushing similar polarities will push away, but other ones will attract, and thus, different kinds of pressure. Is the blocking out of the sun changing or modulating the power of the sun to the United States across, North America? And is that modulation of power going to affect a big quake or some sort of event that's going to bring the doom and gloom of the earth, and especially to the United States, the judgment,
Well, I mean, I guess on the same lines there, like in the show, the movie Armageddon, when they talk about that space rock the size of Texas, and when they split it and it flew by, do you think that would have an effect? Like you'd see a whole bunch of volcanoes take off when that space rock flies by, if it's really close, like in that show, or would we have major earthquakes across the planet at the same time?
Well, what do we know about let's try to see it another way. You have a baseball, and you throw it a baseball, right? And it's spinning. It's got threads on it, right? And the threads, create a wobble, so to speak. A wobble, so to speak. It's traveling through air for us, atmosphere. Is there the same kind, because the spinning of the earth, right? Spinning earth is like a spinning baseball, right? It can curve, it can move because of the resistance that's in the atmosphere. But in space, there's no resistance, right? So how does the spinning satellite or the spinning electromagnetic ball out there affect the planet? Unless there's an attachment of charge, positive or negative or neutral, whatever, that attracts, like lightning gets attracted to a source, right? Or an electric charge gets attracted to it, either drawing or pushing it away. How is that going to affect our planet when, our planet's huge and the asteroid's small?
Well, I think the space rock, once it gets close enough, is attracted to the magnetic field line or lineament line or whatever you want to call it, once it gets close enough to Earth. Or there's a magnetic connection between the two, or interaction.
Right. Well, there's a connection from the Earth to the sun. The sun has magnetic lines too.
Yeah.
And because it's the largest thing, you put several hundred, maybe, 1,000 Earths in the sun's, self.
Yeah.
And several hundred into Jupiter. That has its own magnetic lines. And then we have our own magnetic lines that permeate further out. Um,
But the sun is not coming closer to us until it goes supernova.
all right.
So
But
it's still
I
where
understand
it
that
is, but
we're getting closer to the sun, though. Is that true as well? That the sun is slowly drawing us into itself?
well, the comets and space rocks get
Okay, that's an interesting question. Or could the moon and the comet create a disk resonance in the magnetic field? I don't know what a disk resonance is. The moon orbit around the Earth is becoming strange, and the Earth's orbit around the sun and its elliptic nature is weirding out. Yeah, some like every 25,000 years, right? It acts up a little bit. And then, yeah. 42 says, watch out. How can you spot a Canadian? The first words out of mouth is, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. I believe the physics would point you in a binary solar system with turbidations therein. Yeah, the binary solar system, there's no evidence of it. And I've heard a lot of people talk about the sun's twin and all that. That's for the other channel. It's just, if there was evidence of it, I would say, oh yeah, let's talk about it. I shouted it was I'm glad you're to head out. Have a nice rest of your stream. All right. Oh, lovely ghost. 85% of the solar systems are binary. Do you know what the percentage of single? It's really low, but that's not saying that it's not what it is. So, it's like life. Life on this planet is so darn unique. It didn't happen by circumstance. It happened by design. And there's nowhere else in the universe that it's happened.
Well, we must be binary because that's why we have the binary number system to run all the computers. There you go.
Positive, negative. We're binary. One's positive, one's negative. I guess it is. But you see the effects of movements in the planet, et cetera, with celestial objects. Again, observations, suppositions, but can you rely on it?
Yeah.
And
so how can we have multiple genders if we're all binary?
Yeah, I don't know.
So science
Proving
contradicts itself.
perturbations. Yeah, I know perturbations. I've seen them, and I've seen evidence of those, showing that they were able to say, "Hey, there's a planet out there," only because they know something's affecting the other planets. Yeah, I've seen that vast thinker as well. Yeah,
but we'll see what happens on April 8th.
no, right?
If the grid goes down, I won't be able to watch the Blue Jays home opener. That's why I'm more concerned about that than I am.
Are they going to take that hour off and watch the sun disappear?
Well,
who will see it anyways? It looks like a bright and wonderful future, no matter how you look at it.
It's not that big of a deal in Toronto.
Yeah, I know, right? Fast thinking.
They're shutting Niagara Falls all down. I read that today.
What?
Doing here, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What are they going to do?
Shutting Niagara Falls down because of the eclipse of the Niagara region. Just like what they're doing here.
How do they shut a waterfall off?
No,
is there a spigot somewhere?
They're shutting all the roads down. You can't move. You can't do anything.
Oh, okay.
You're only allowed to walk here and there and everywhere.
Okay, now I get it.
In the dark, when
like, do what? I was thinking about the water. 15-minute waterfall city. No, right?
Yeah, that'll be the next thing.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah, they'll have to bring the old Niagara Falls power plant back on in. Which they are. They're actually restoring it. Did you know that?
What? The one that got knocked down in 87?
No, the one they shut it down back in the 90s because it was too old. It worked for 100 years making power. By them taking the Niagara River and running it through it.
Through the turbines?
Yeah, run the turbine with it.
I think that's an incredible way to make electricity.
Yeah, and it had a hole that it came out under the falls, so you never knew that it was like the perfect recycling system.
Wait, they have another tunnel?
Yeah, there's a tunnel under the falls. That's what they use for the power plant.
My God.
The water from out of the Niagara River out through this tunnel. It went down through the plant, then out through this other tunnel behind the falls. So when they made it back, whenever it was 18,
they can divert it, right?
Yeah, they made it so they weren't wasting anything because the people didn't want them to make some big monstrosity that would ruin the.
They did shut it down in 1969. Hey, all right.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. I saw my sister was watching a documentary about it. It's pretty interesting.
That's interesting right there. 1969 shut down Niagara waterfall.
And they're actually restoring that old power plant. It's just because the parts all wore out after 100 years. So, but they can fix it. So they're actually restoring it now, which they probably should because they could use it again. Like if we ever had
June 1969, the last 3 days, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers directed more than 1,000 trucks to dump rocks on the water passage between Goat Island and Niagara Falls. New York mainland, just opposite the Doubletree, sits there, in fact. But no feat is attracting more visitors in the scientific survey conducted in 1969. Engineers wanted to find out a way to remove the unseemly boulders had piled up at the base since 1931, cutting off the height of the falls in half. So in essence, they diverted it, right? They didn't just stop it. Otherwise, it would flood everywhere. They shut the damn waterfalls off, I can see. So, oh my God. Where did the water go? I mean, it's still the sun was draining there, but yeah, they diverted it. Yeah. I mean, I guess when I heard Canucks say they're going to shut it off, I went, what? What is it, like a spigot? You can shut it on, shut it off. Diverting it, I can see that. The water's got to go somewhere. Interesting. Yeah, totally interesting. I think they did find a few bodies down there too when they did it. Crazy. Niagara Falls runs dry. Here you go. They had tunnels far out. So it got diverted somehow. Huh. Where the hell did tunnels go? How many tunnels under Niagara Falls? TUNs under Niagara Falls. The tunnel at Niagara Falls Power Station. All right.
Yeah, I put the name of it in there. Canadian Niagara Power Plant. That's what the name of it was.
Yeah.
So
now they diverted the water through this tunnel. Is it what they did?
Yeah, it came out the tunnel to get back into the falls, basically.
Yeah, there's two behind. Yeah. Oh, man, far freaking out, man. So, yeah.
And how they made the power plant, you wouldn't even know from looking at it from the outside that it was even a power plant. So it's crazy.
power plants here. Powerhouse. The tunnel. All right. Niagara River. Oh, it flows this way. All right. So they diverted a portion of the river to go through the powerhouse and come out another place.
Yeah. So then it came out like behind the falls.
Right. Yeah, I got an image here. Excuse me, guys.
So basically, the water ended up in the same place where it would have. Anyways,
The Trail Rice Tunnel. Apologize. One of the most impressive parts of the project was the Trail Rice Tunnel. Although largely invisible, the tunnel was an enormous construction project and a critical component of the power plant's operation. The tunnel was 2,200 feet long, beginning the powerhouse and ending in a portal at the gorge near the base of the Horseshoe Falls. It was at this portal that the water diverted to the powerhouse from Niagara River was discharged and rejoined the river. Yeah, they turned off the spigot.
yeah, because you can actually go there. I guess they have tours of it. You can actually look at the old power plant and stuff, see all the things it has in it. But I guess they're restoring it or whatever too, so they could use it again if they had to.
They built it in 1902. I mean, at least they engineered drawing a discharge tunnel. Pretty good sized tunnel made of all these bricks.
Yeah, so it's crazy.
Yeah. There's the tunnel down here. So they just diverted it and shot out here rather than go over the top. For some reason, I always thought, well, I wondered why sometimes it freezes, and does it stop flowing when it freezes? Or does it flow underneath the ice? I don't know. In 1957, Ricani Generating Station temporarily shut down operations so that the discharge channel could be inspected and any necessary repairs. It was found that the tunnel was in excellent condition after 50 years of operation and very little maintenance was required. Well, they knew how to. Well, I guess it was solid rock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we got here? You hear about the 80-year supernova? Yep, they turned off Niagara Falls and the Mississippi ran backwards. Are they connected? Yep, the earthquake caused the Mississippi to run backwards. Yeah, well, uplift and, down.
Well, I don't know if it ran backwards the other times, because they figured out it's 4 other times. Or 3 other times other than 1811, 1812, that there was a big quake there.
Right.
From studying the fault itself.
So
4 dates. One of them is 900. Same as when
Cascadia.
Seattle fault went off, and well, Cascadia went off around the same time,
right,
as well. And the big quake in Oklahoma, 7, was that same time too. All on the same liniment. Mears Fault in Oklahoma when they did the.
Oh, see, there's the big drilling thing that they did. Canucks. New energy in Niagara. A giant hole will operate Ontario's shift away from fossil fuels. Yeah, so they're drilling a new one. Yeah.
Well, if Niagara Falls went backwards, that would be interesting. back up the falls.
All right.
Be cool.
Well, even at this, you can see it's just a little river going down Niagara, right? But it comes from up north, right? I mean, if we're just looking at a map, right in here. Niagara's Lake Ontario goes through here, and so they're just controlling it. Now, Lake Ontario, if they blocked it off 100% here at Niagara, would Lake Ontario be overwhelmed? Or is it like it's Lake Huron that goes this way through Lake Erie and goes into Lake Ontario, right? So it's from Buffalo through that way. Is that how it works, Canuck?
I can't remember because they're different.
They're different elevations.
Yeah, they're different elevations. That's why they have the long canal system.
See, my question is, if you shut down, there's another river through St. Catharines, the Niagara, that goes through one side or the other, it looks like. But just the Niagara, if you shut it down 100%, what happens to Lake Erie or Lake Ontario? Does Lake Ontario lose depth and Lake Erie rise? Because it goes from Huron to Lake Erie to Ontario and out through St. Lawrence River, right?
Well, everything comes from Lake Superior.
Right.
Yeah, because it's all flowing out.
It's flowing out to the St. Lawrence Seaway there. So, yeah, I guess, they dumped it at Goat Island. So,
Yeah, but the new big cargo ships can't go in there.
They can't get there anyway. They can't go up the falls.
No. Well, and where they go through the canals and locks, if they're too big for that. So the stuff that's in the Great Lakes are the smaller cargo ships.
Wait, they traveled Ontario into Lake Erie? Yeah, there's got to be a lock or something, right?
Oh yeah, the ships.
So,
come in.
but that's through St. Catharines Way, not through Niagara.
This is St. Lawrence Seaway. That's how all the ships come in there to the Great Lakes.
Right.
So they go right from the St. Lawrence all the way in as far as you can go.
Yeah, I think it's through Catherine's here. Well, I guess I can look at it another way.
But the biggest ships, cargo ships now that China's making, the ones they're making won't even fit through the Panama or Suez Canal, either one.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought there, Vast Thinker. What caused the geological structure of the Great Lakes? Was it a meteor strike? Interesting. Up in Canada,
The glaciers.
Yeah, the depth, right up in here.
Well, there was a big impact up there.
Mm-hmm.
The Sunbury one, or whatever it's called, the Sunbury crater.
Right. The retraction of the 3 miles of ice in Canada straight up in the air that was over a portion of the North America at the time. I mean, 3 miles of thick ice is insane. And
well, the Great Lakes are just remnants of the glacial lake legacy there.
Right.
Yep. Because the southwestern corner of Lake Agassiz ended in North Dakota.
Yeah. And my buddy is in North Dakota. He's right over there. Yep.
Yeah, the Trans-Hudson orogeny.
Orogeny. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the western edge of Lake Agassiz.
Yeah. Well, see, these are how we say, okay, in time, this thing happened, right? So we back up time saying, well, it moved this much. The making of Niagara, how it ate away. It was, down here, and then now it's way up there, right? It ate away the landmass over time, just like the Grand Canyon, how it was created. It's far out. It takes time for that stuff to happen, and then we start going out there and playing with stuff. So, isn't that true? Lake Tahoe too.
Yeah.
That doesn't explain why you
One of
couldn't
them, I
find
can't
the bottom of Lake
remember
Superior.
which lake it is. They found volcanic stuff at the bottom of it.
And the submarine base at the bottom of Lake Superior. I think that's the other channel. I never heard of one. Let me see if there's a base there. Submarine base at the bottom of Lake Superior. Let me see this.
I think it was Superior that they found volcanic rocks at the bottom of it.
There you go. It's right there. Submarines in Lake Superior or Great Lakes? ? So often it becomes a question: were there any ever submarines in Lake Superior or Great Lakes? Over 100 years ago, I don't know. This newspaper had the headline: "Submarine may be built in Ontario." Western Dry Dock Company. Blah blah blah.
Well, they'd have to go through the St. Lawrence Seaway to get there, right? Same as the ships.
And you don't want to show yourself, so why would they do it?
Yeah.
Unless they had tunnels.
Except they say the subs show up in St. Louis when the last time they saw them was on the West Coast, so they don't know how they got there.
Yeah. I heard that same thing. I'm like, whatever. Let's. Are there any submarines? Where's the biggest submarine base? Norfolk, Virginia.
But it's the same thing with the transport trucks that disappear in St. Louis, and then you don't see them until California. Nobody sees them in between. So it's all very exciting.
Yeah, the U.S. submarines, current fast attack ballistic missile submarines, all draw too much water to transit the seaway into Lake Ontario or to transit through Erie to the upper lakes. Can't do it. Unless it's a small one.
That's why all the bunker buster bombs are so popular now. You got to take out all the tunnels and the underground connections.
Yeah. Whoa. Thank you, Timmy. Uh-oh. Just an email, I guess.
Yeah, just a regular notification.
It's been 46 minutes. What happened?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Great Lakes Naval Station Underwater Complex. Is the tractor underwater complex similar to the Vault bunker and structure built in Chicago? What the hell? All right. Location: the Great Lakes Naval Station Underwater Complex can be found near the lake bed of Lake Michigan off the east coast of Chicago. I think this goes to what he's saying. So I'm just going to post that for y'all. It's a steampunk submarine base. Okay. Wait. These dates aren't even real. All right. Again, it's whatever, dude. Michigan.
The rabbit holes in Michigan all connect to the naval station.
Right?
But I just thought it was interesting when I was looking up the Detroit Bridge, the new one that they're building. It doesn't have any piers in the water, so no cargo ships can run into it.
Say it again, bud.
The new bridge they're building between Detroit and Windsor, Ontario, is
A stanchion bridge or whatever.
ships to run into.
Yeah. Yeah, what that is.
Open by 2025. The Gordie Howe International Bridge is called. So it's named after Gordie Howe.
Guess there are submarines in, or they were, in Manitowoc. The SS-265 USS Peto. Yeah. Claim like WI Elf transmitter. Clam Lake Elf transmitter. Watch out. During the Cold War, U.S. needed to be able to communicate with its nuclear subs in the depths of the world's oceans. If there was another needed preemptive or retaliatory strike against the U.S. Soviet Socialist Republic, communications to a nuclear submarine was critical. The beginning of ELF.
Well, there's an old lighthouse out in the water. I think that was Michigan too.
Oh, I'm being serious about coming across, but we've got to make light of, like I was saying, cognitive. Yeah, I know, bud.
That they
The
shot
more, the uninformed.
bombs at stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I could be uninformed, but if they've actually broken into the water underneath, in the, where would it be? The moho is where the water is, or below? And if so, if it's that deep, then it vaporized. So I don't see it. I don't know where the hell it is.
Well, the water's in the crust too, so depending on how thick the crust
Right.
is.
Well, let's see, the heat, the crust melts it, right? And that's what volcanoes are created out of. Turns the water to gas, and gas expands and breaks the rocks and superheats the rocks, and then boom, we have a volcano. So how can you have a water? I mean, I know off the East Coast, they said there's fresh water somewhere underneath the ocean. I don't know. I need more information on that.
The water that's under the crust is what they consider heavy water. It's like the same water that's in the Marianas Trench, but superheated and embedded into the crust itself. You know what I mean?
Eagles. Interesting. Yeah, really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, now I'm looking up how thick is the crust in Michigan.
Well, let me ask this question to both of you two. Like there's been attempts they say, to drill to the center of the earth or through the crust. Wouldn't be the most logical spot to try and do that? Wouldn't that be in the Marianas Trench? Wouldn't that be the thinnest part of the crust? You'd think, since it's so deep there.
Mankind can't get to the bottom of the Marianas.
Yeah,
there's no submarine that can get that deep.
So
Not even a Bell capsule can get that deep. They get down pretty
I'm
damn
talking
deep.
about just drilling into the,
Yeah. Well, again, if we draw the map, we know that the trench, right, goes down Marianas, right? And then it's, this side. If it's,
would that be the most logical spot to drill into? You'd think the crust of all the plates and everything, that would be the thinnest spot.
Well,
If
I
you were
mean,
actually trying to drill
again,
in.
if you have subduction, right? I'm drawing on the map here. If you have subduction and you're going down in the trench, right?
Well, it says the Marianas Trench is 10,984 meters deep.
Right.
And that record drilling in
Russia.
wasn't that like 12,000 something?
Yeah, I can't remember. It says what else does it say? 37 feet deep.
Yeah, 36,000 feet deep. Yeah, they don't. I guess. Let me see here. I think still looking at a lot of activity there in Iceland. Let me do a search here real quick for you. The deepest, I think it's a Bell, right? Bell sub. The deepest man has gone in the ocean.
They've been down the bottom of the Marianas
10
Trench.
10,927 meters into Challenger Deep. From the water deepest point of the Earth joins the museum collection. Last year's expedition, Marians Trench made history by conducting the deepest crewed dive ever to complete as it descended to 10,927 meters. Yeah.
So the Kola Super Deep Borehole is 40,230 feet deep. Wherever that is, I don't know. Is that the Russian one or is this a different one?
Kola?
Kola Super Deep Borehole. It's 40,230 feet deep. It says 12.2 kilometers.
Oh. Fucking things, man. I don't want. The challenge, yeah. Vesco made 3 dives Challenger Deep that year and set a new record in 2019, diving at the depth of 35,839 feet. So they dove to 35,839. I know they went deep, but I didn't think they went, all the way to the bottom. Has anyone in the deepest part of the ocean? Yes, only 3 people have been in Challenger Deep did it. Jack and Picard. There's Picard. Jack Picard. Swiss Oceanic. Picard was the first person to reach the bottom of the Challenger Deep in 1960. Wow.
Well, I guess even after they got down there, then they'd have to still drill through the crust once they got down there.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you be, as he would like to say, light years ahead? Because obviously you're going to have 7 miles of pipe hanging there before you get to the bottom of that trench.
Mm-hmm.
But you're already that, let's say, far ahead of the game. Because it's so cold down there and everything that once you start drilling, realistically, all you got to drill is a couple thousand meters, and then you've already beat the record from where they drilled in Russia.
Yeah, true, but still, then you'd have to drill into the crust underneath, which is Pacific Plate, right?
Right, but do you think that would be the thinnest spot of the plate? I mean, if you were going to go drill anywhere to, let's say, try and drill into the center of the Earth, as they did in Russia and other places, but I guess I'm just thinking in my mind that I
Well,
would try to find the deepest spot.
that place that they're drilling in Utah is only like 3 kilometers, I think, or 5 kilometers, or where they're trying to drill down into the mantle or whatever.
But they were having problems because the bit was overheating, though, right?
Yeah.
So if you were, I mean, since it's so cold down there and so deep in the Marianas Trench, I mean, you would think that coldness would kind of radiate down into the earth, and if the crust is, let's say the thinnest spot there, I mean, wouldn't you think a guy would be able to punch through that?
Well, maybe, but it would depend on how thick. Like, I don't know how thick the Pacific plate is there. There's a Pacific plate that's subducting under the Marianas Trench. So I assume it's like probably 5 kilometers. Because usually oceanic plates are like 3 to 5 kilometers thick. So you'd have to add that on to whatever the depth of the trench, right?
Right. Well, and the fact that if you took all the water off the planet, the Earth looks more like an egg than it does a round ball.
It's definitely not round. I guess there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different zones of the Earth water. I put a picture up there, and it talks about the thermocline and all that in depths.
Well, and like that seamount they drilled into here last year on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So they picked like one of the higher seamounts, so it was easier for them to get the cores, drill into it for cores. So they didn't go to like the deepest spot of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge to do it. They picked one of the seamounts and then drilled into that to get the cores they needed.
It's interesting that if you get to about 6,000 meters or 19,000 feet, the temperature of the ocean is constantly near freezing. And then there's one more zone. The deepest zone of the ocean is the Hadal-Pelagic zone. It's Hadal-Pelagic zone. And it's 19,000 feet to the very bottom of 10,994 meters or 36,070 feet Mariana Trench. The temperature is constant, just above freezing. The weight of all the water overhead in the Mariana Trench is over 8 tons per square inch. Even the very bottom of life exists. Tiny single-cell organisms called foraminifera, a type of plankton, were discovered in Challenger Deep's Trench southwest of Guam in the Pacific Ocean. The deepest fish ever had been found, the Abyss Botola Galathea, which was in Puerto Rico Trench in 80 or 27,000 feet. Yeah, did you know the Puerto Rican Trench is pretty damn deep too? 27,000 feet. Pretty crazy. But it's interesting how the ocean can be that deep and be so cold, yet if it's in the land, if you're that same depth, it'd be so hot.
Right.
Because hot always travels toward the cold. Or does the cold always swallow up the hot? I don't know.
Well, to make something hot, it requires energy. To keep something cold, it requires no energy.
Far out, man. I'm going to put this link in there as well. So megalodons are just fish that came up from the very deep that expanded. I don't know. Yes, sir. Well, I'm gonna. You have any? I'm gonna close it out. Do you have anything you want to add there, guys?
I'm good.
No, I'm good because it's 2 a.m. here, so I'm amazed I'm still functioning. But
I know, right? Interesting trip tonight down a rabbit hole. Woo.
yeah, we went down the trench, literally.
Well, thanks for staying up this late tonight, Canuck.
It's
Yeah,
always a pleasure to have both of you.
The rabbit hole led to the Marianas Trench. So there you go.
There you go. There's a
Can't
lot
get
of pressure.
much deeper than that.
Yeah. Thank you, 42, Vast Thinker, Flutter Girl, and all the others, Canuck especially, and Clem especially, for being on, and Vast Thinker 42. Beth was out there. Rocket Bob 76 is out there. Flutter Girl Eden was also throwing questions out, and Eagles as well. And Simply Sue visiting us. I love it. Out there was Guild and Heron Zvetsdian. Hey, how you doing? Snarlies, P2 Psych, and Sharebear 411. Thanks for so much hanging out. Hey, Timmy too. Always a pleasure to do a rabbit hole. And this was an impromptu one, but Canuck and I thought of it because I missed the last one. Anyway, yeah, it's not in my arms anymore. So, but I still have to touch that stuff. God. Next week. No, I don't know what I'm going to do. Have a good Easter. Happy Resurrection Day, all y'all. And thank you so much, Canuck and Clem. I appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Good night. What happened? There we go.